You downloaded a brand new episode of Speaking Wrestling with Elvis Arroyo, and I am Elvis Arroyo. This is episode 17, and this week I'm speaking NXT Takeover. I'm going to give you guys my SummerSlam review. I'm going to be talking about the upcoming King of the Ring tournament, also what to watch, and I'm going to give you guys my performers and floppers of the week. But before we get started with all that, I want to give you guys a reminder to head on over to our YouTube page. You can find us over at Speaking Wrestling on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe. You can also find us on Twitter at Speaking Wrestle and over on Instagram at Speaking Wrestling. And don't forget to download the Anchor app. It's the easiest way to get your podcast started and distributed today. It's available for iOS and Android. Download the Anchor app today and get started. Let's start with NXT Takeover Toronto. This show was phenomenal from the start to finish. I really like the way that this show was set up. Opening match with the Street Profits defending their NXT Tag Team Championships against Undisputed Era. I was really not expecting this match to be all that well, but it was really well done. Street Profits, really being pushed to the limits with great competitors like Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. This match was great. Great way to start off the show. And still, NXT Tag Team Champions, Street Profits. That's right, guys. We're heading right into this. Going in Raw right into it. Also, Io Shirai and Candice LeRae. This match, I was really saying last week's podcast that Candice LeRae really needs this match to really define who she really is. But also she's going up against a heel that's, in her own right coming up in Io Shirai. And both of these girls were very impressive in this match. But, Io Shirai came up with the victory. And I like the character. I love the cadences. And I love the aesthetics of her entrance. I love the new look that she's been donning since, she's been more of a heel over the past months, and then turning her back on Candice LeRae. So this is a great match. This match has been getting a lot of great reviews. But another match that was a really great standout match that I was looking forward to the most last week and headed into this NXT TakeOver was the North American Triple Threat Championship match with the Velveteen Dream defending against Roderick Strong and Pete Dunne. This match was just classic, perfect. I mean, it's ideal to what attracts me to what a pro wrestling match is. This was just done very well. High impact moves all over the place. Roderick Strong, of course, he's the messiah of the backbreaker. Pete Dunne, I mean, he's just a brutal brawler. And of course, the showman, the Velveteen Dream. This match was one of those that you got to go back and watch. Definitely one of my favorites. I'm going to definitely put in there for match of the year in my book. So and also, moving on, Shayna Baszler, she retains her title as well as she defeated Mia Yim. This was a great match and a great showcasing for Mia Yim, who, this is her second opportunity going up against Shayna Baszler. Comes up short once again, but I mean, this, again, it seems like everyone takes it to Baszler when they get their shot, but she overcomes that and she still is dominant, though everybody gives them their all. Great matchup here, and main event. Adam Cole defending his NXT Championship against Johnny Gargano in a 2 out of 3 falls match. First fall chosen by Adam Cole, just a regular match. Second fall, Johnny Gargano chose a street fight, and if it goes to a third fall, it would be chosen by William Regal, general manager of NXT. And this was a great match. I mean, the first fall, they went almost 45 minutes without, the first fall. It ended with Johnny Gargano getting disqualified after he hit Adam Cole with a steel chair. Other than that, no rush into the first fall. So that I really like that. The second fall, they went all around. A lot of action. Johnny Gargano got the submission, and he gets the second fall. They go to a third fall, and it's basically an Ambrose Asylum, though they're not dubbing it because he's not here anymore. So it's an Ambrose Asylum with way more, double the weapons that there were in the past from what we've seen. And this was a great match, and it ended with both guys at the top of the cage coming down to a table, 2 tables set up. And, it's hard to tell who got the worst end of it because both guys fell at the same time. The impact hit at the same time, hit the mat. But to be a champion, win by any means necessary, and the wherewithal of Adam Cole, to roll over and pin Johnny Gargano to retain his NXT Championship. And though the night didn't end the way that Undisputed Era hoped for, with everybody holding gold at the end of the night, the fact that Adam Cole still retained the NXT Championship still puts Undisputed Era at the top spot of NXT, because if the champ is on top and he's got Undisputed Era backing him up, it's going to be, up shit creek for anybody that's going to be going up against him. And, they're looking to be a big headache in William Regal. But this is what I like. This is what I expected and hoped for Undisputed Era when they came all together. I want them to be this renegade group that takes over. And, we've seen this with any faction. They take over and they're assemble babyface and they're wreaking havoc for the babyface general manager. But I think this would be different, and and in this era, there needs to be this cool new faction that they're not going to break up. They're going to stick together. We've done the 3-piece with the Shield and the New Day, a 4-piece. It brings a whole new different element. I mean, it worked with Evolution and it's worked with the Four Horsemen. So I think this is great. Moving on to SummerSlam. This is another show that was great. Again, from start to finish, SummerSlam was great. And I know that because at the end of the night, I really thought, what match, really didn't do it for me. And it's really hard to say what match wasn't that impressive because every match was impressive. Everybody brought their A game this night and this weekend. Everybody, it's 4 straight nights of wrestling in Toronto. And I got to say that all 4 nights, non-disappointment. And we'll get to Raw and SmackDown, of course. But SummerSlam, great action all across the board. Kofi Kingston and Randy Orton, the match that I was very anticipated going into it. But I knew that, this isn't going to be the end. They ended with a double count out. So I know this is going to continue on, no issue with that. But the opening match, Natalya versus Becky Lynch, great crowd also. The fans were very behind Natalya in this one. Of course, Becky. But I like the very trade-off during this match of the submissions hold. This was a submission match. Don't forget that, folks. The finish came with Becky landing the disarmer for the first time in this match on Natalya. I would have loved to seen one more sequence of Natty getting out of it and then Becky going back into it and really clinching it. I think Natty was really strong during this match and the crowd was really behind her. That I think just the first time clinching it on and for her to tap out, it was like, Natty was so strong in this match. To her to go out on the first time that you get your finisher on, I think a little bit of cop out, but again, I think they're protecting the disarmer, for future opponents, and then of course we'll get to that. But overall, great match. I really enjoyed this match a lot. And also another match that I really enjoyed. To me, I gotta say that this is the match of the night, match of the weekend. It was Charlotte Flair and Trish Stratus. And yes, I know this was more like a promotional match. This was more of the match to sell tickets and, of course, bring in the Canadian fans. But, man, this match was excellent. And the women brought it on SummerSlam. The Bayley-Ember Moon match was great as well. Congrats to Bayley retaining her championship. But this match with Charlotte Flair and Trish Stratus was just phenomenal. I mean, these girls went out there and gave it their all. And that's one thing that I admire is, where the makeup and their hair's all over the place because they went out there and they put in the work. And they did that Sunday night and they executed a perfect match. And kudos to Trish Stratus. She did have that one match in Evolution last year. But for her to come back and have a match with arguably the greatest of today's generation and future greatest of all time, Charlotte Flair, and have a match like this. This was a match. It definitely felt like a main event feel. This match could have been for a title. It was phenomenal. I love this match. This match was great. My favorite match of the night was that Flair Stratus match. Also, main event, Seth Rollins going up against Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship. This was a great match. I got to say, again, though it's not the match of the night and my favorite match overall, I will say that this is the biggest match for Seth Rollins' career, and it had to be. And this was a great match. I mean, he went in there, the beast who's been built up as this unstoppable guy who no one can beat, likes of Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman and all these guys that have tried and they've just been conquered by the beast. And now we see Seth Rollins, who this year has had the best of Brock Lesnar, and here he is once again showcasing who he is. I guess in that promo that he said Monday that I kind of understated that, I didn't really believe it, but man, he really brought it on Sunday. And this is a perfect match for Seth Rollins. The biggest match of his career. Again, not the best match. I'm not saying this topples all his past matches. He's had great matches, but looking at the big picture, this is the biggest match for Seth Rollins because now it solidifies him as a top player and really the man that's conquered the beast, Brock Lesnar. I mean, you can't say that about anybody else. I mean, Roman Reigns, but he's had his defeats, but no one's taken it to Brock and won it clean. Yes, Roman won last year, But I mean, there was, some shenanigans going on. But Seth conquered the beast on his own. And look, congrats to him. He lived up to what he is. And, who knows going forward with this. And it's very interesting. But congrats to Seth Rollins on becoming a Universal Champion once again. And the last thing as I wrap up SummerSlam review, guys, last thing that I took away from SummerSlam is the debut of Bray Wyatt. And man, this was just executed so perfect. And I loved every moment that I was watching this as it was on the screen. From the entrance to his in-ring work, to his cadences, to the body language, to everything. This was perfect. And I the anticipation to this debut has just been executed so well by the WWE. So kudos to them. I mean, you got to remember that we saw the new Bray Wyatt the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania, and for him to not make his in-ring debut with this new character, this new gimmick, till SummerSlam, I mean, job well done. And it kept us all tied in. There was not any point, any week, where I believe that us as wrestling fans felt like, okay, enough of this, or it's not going to work out, or we didn't believe. We're waiting. So congrats to Bray Wyatt, man, because this is really him. This is his thoughts, his input. This is his vision, and it's great. And I'm loving it because I'm a firm believer that this Bray Wyatt character is what's just going to skyrocket and help the WWE once they get to Fox and once they reach more audiences going forward. Because we talk about this wrestling boom that's coming. We talk about AEW and what that can do for the wrestling industry. And, when there's competition, it's great. Everybody wins. And going into that, you need a top star, and this is it. This is the guy that I really think that is just going to draw eyes to this. I mean, there's no doubt about that mainstream audience is going to, want to know about this guy. You've never seen a character like Bray Wyatt in movies. You've never seen a character like Bray Wyatt in professional wrestling. You don't see a character like this flipping the channels on TV. Well, now you do, and people are going to want to see who this character is, Bray Wyatt. And with social media now, word gets around quicker than it ever did. And if we're moving into another wrestling boom, we're moving into a whole another wrestling boom with a whole different point of view and perspective this time around than it was back in the original Monday Night Wars. And this time it's going to be the Wednesday Night Wars, the Hump Day Wars. The debut of Bray Wyatt at SummerSlam, if you can even say debut, it's more like his re-debut. Just executed, well done by the WWE. Everybody that worked on this, it just came out really well. And kudos to Bray Wyatt for painting this perfect masterpiece of this new character and presenting it to all of us. And now you just throw on top of that a great soundtrack with Code Orange supplying Bray Wyatt's new entrance music. So again, this character is just evolving, and it's just getting better and better, and you want to see more and more of it. So I really like that. And speaking of characters and people that have made their returns or made a debut, in this case a re-debut again, the boss, Sasha Banks, made her re-debut on Monday Night Raw. And I say re-debut because she came out donning that purple hair. No. She took that wig off, and now she's donning blue. What a way to make a comeback and present yourself with this new attitude than to interrupt Natalya, who was in the midst of giving this very emotional promo about, celebrating that a year ago we lost Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and for Sasha Banks to interrupt her right in the middle of this moment, it really left a poor taste. And that's exactly what you want, and that should be exactly what we've been wanting. We've been clamming for a Sasha Banks heel turn, and here it is, and I like it. And here comes Becky Lynch to make the save. We obviously see where this is going, a Becky and Sasha feud, which I agree. I think this is good. They've had a great match in NXT, one of the takeovers back when they were still in Full Sail back in 2015, and it was a great match. And now they're going to have a program to work with. Good for them. I mean, Sasha was nailing Becky with those chair shots, so I can only imagine all the promos and the build-up to these matchups coming up between Sasha and Becky. It should be a good one. I look forward to it. And this episode of Monday Night Raw we talk about those Raw after Mania. We need to start talking about the Raw after SummerSlam, because besides Sasha Banks coming back into the fold as a heel now, we also saw some great matchups. I mean, we saw 2 out of 3 falls with Andrade and Rey Mysterio, but surprisingly, Rey Mysterio didn't pick up a fall. He picks up 2 losses in a row to Andrade. But the most interesting thing that I took away from this was that post-match interview he had backstage with Charlie Caruso, where it almost seemed as if Rey, has something to say, has something to get off his chest, and he kept referring to as his family. And of course, Charlie was, asked him, "Is there something you want to say?" And he just, it really just seems like, Rey's got some problems going on at home. But again, the reason why I took note of this is because since Rey's been back, he's been just having these great matches with Andrade a dozen times now, but he's also, not been utilized. We see him get squashed here and there. He's coming up short on big time opportunities. He was having that robbery with Samoa Joe and just got demolished the whole time. Now I really started to think that this might be the start of something with Rey. And that's good, because that's what you want. And I think I have faith in Rey starting something, because Paul Heyman is now in charge of Raw. And Paul Heyman, if I think he's anything of a great person with a great heart, he knows that this is Rey Mysterio's, last run really in professional wrestling, and possibly making this much money at this high rate at this stage of his life, on this stage of the WWE. And I think he knows that, look, we got to do something for Rey. And one thing that Rey has never done in his time in WWE is turn heel. I think this might be the start of Rey Mysterio turning heel, and that's great. And why is that great? Rey Mysterio turning heel, why has it never been done, and why now? Why now would be a great time? Because he's back, he's feeling good, better than ever, having some great matchups. We just need to put him in a great spot. And look, a heel Rey Mysterio, you got a great amount of talent that are baby faces right now. A Rey Mysterio Ricochet with Rey being the bad guy, great matchup there. You got Rey Mysterio challenging Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship. That'd be a dream matchup right there. Why not? You got to have one guy babyface, one guy heel. At this point, Rey, he's a heel. So I really like that. And I we can only wait and see where that unravels. Also, Elias, new 24/7 champion. And speaking of new champions, Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross became new women's tag team champions last week on Raw. But I mentioned that now that the titles are on Alexa and Nikki, don't forget Nikki, but they are on Alexa, and I said that Alexa is a character that's heavily used week to week on WWE programming, and I think this is the time that these titles are going to be being used. I mean, since they've won, the titles have been on last week's Raw, they've been on the SummerSlam pre-show, and now they're back on Monday Night Raw, as Nikki Cross and Alexa defended them against the Kabuki Warriors, this past Monday Night Raw. Great matchup, but I really like the chemistry and what I see unfolding with Alexa Bliss. And Alexa Bliss has the immense amount of potential to be Raw or the entire company's top babyface. So if future down the line, we might see a Sasha babyface Alexa Bliss, or you turn Becky heel and you got a babyface Alexa Bliss. I mean, the endless amount of new matchups or matchups that we could revisit, but now have a new paint of coat on there and tell a whole different story. I mean, it just opens up a whole new door for everybody. So I like this. And of course, the main event of Monday Night Raw was AJ Styles challenging Seth Rollins from earlier in the night. Of course, the Good Brothers get involved, and Ricochet comes down. It's 3-on-2, and out comes Braun Strowman to even things out and really clear things out. And the reason why I mention this, and the match goes to no contest, disqualification, Seth Rollins wins. And the reason why I say this is because this seems a little bit like deja vu, or like we've been there, done that. And it might remind you of last year's post SummerSlam, and that's where Roman Reigns defeated Brock Lesnar the night before to become the Universal Champion. Sounds a lot like Seth Rollins defeating Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam to become the Universal Champion as well. And then the next night, you have the champion getting beat down. Out come 2 guys to make the save. And this time, it wasn't the Shield. It was Ricochet and Braun Strowman. But you get it's kind of around the same ballpark of what happened last year. And also, I mean, this is really where it's like, okay, this is where, we get that SummerSlam high and things start coming down. And that's that, we saw Braun Strowman handing over the Universal Championship to Seth Rollins. And it only makes me think, don't don't tell me they're going to turn Braun Strowman heel for the sake of Braun going after Seth, being his new challenger. But you got to have a heel, and it's going to be Braun. We saw this last year. It was forced at a time where Braun was over as a babyface. I mean, the crowds were just chanting for Braun. He was the ideal guy that we all wanted to be the champion, and he never got that opportunity. And it seems like, the past run that he had with Bobby Lashley and, leading weeks, Braun Strowman is once again building up good faith with the audience. I've been putting him over. I've been saying, screw the enhancement, jobber squash matches, put Braun Strowman back in that title hunt. And especially now that it's not on Brock, because if they're not going to beat Brock with Braun, then, you might as well put it on somebody else and give us a good matchup. And in this case, I think Vince is going back to, if it didn't work last year, Roman, of course, went out. But then, try it one more time. But I don't think right now is the right time to turn Braun heel for the sake of turning Braun heel. It's the same thing that I talked about with Ember Moon and Bayley about a few weeks ago. I said, they're turning Bayley or Ember Moon heel for the sake of one of them being heel and one of them being babyface. And in this case, it's just not the right time. And I know it's just one is the right time. I mean, Eric Bischoff says, one thing a superstar shouldn't do is argue. Well, my character wouldn't do that. And I think it's one of those, it might be one of those kind of, well, my character wouldn't lose right now or wouldn't turn heel right now. But, you can't do that right now when the audience have gotten back on good terms with Braun Strowman and see him as a good contender. And in this case, a babyface contender. I mean, he gets get these hands chants really, really loud. So, all right, moving on over to SmackDown Live this week. And SmackDown Live, again, another great show. And of course, we still got the Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon saga that's never going to stop. This thing might go on and on forever. It's just that this time Kevin Owens the babyface and Shane's the heel, of course. And also Ember Moon was in action against Charlotte Flair. And this is a great matchup. This is one. Go back and watch this. And again, look, I put Charlotte Flair over for her great match with Trish Stratus at SummerSlam. And once again here, she's in there with Ember Moon. This match was also great. Not up to a pay-per-view status, but this was great. Go back and watch this. She picks up the win here. But it wasn't the best match of the night, because the best match of the night, and we're going to talk about what came out of SmackDown. Everybody's talking about this. The secret's out, folks. Buddy Murphy is here. And he made his in-ring main roster debut against Roman Reigns. And what a way to make a debut. I mean, these two guys had the match of the night with as much wrestling that we saw this weekend, and everybody brought their A game from Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and now on SmackDown Live. It's hard to argue who had the match of the week, of the year, with so much matches going on. And that's just WWE, folks. This was a perfect debut for Buddy Murphy. Everything about this match is perfect. It's going to be up there with possibly match of the year. Go back and watch this. Roman Reigns picks up the win with just a devastating spear like no other delivered to Buddy Murphy, and nobody could do it like Buddy Murphy. So go back and watch this. But of course, when we're talking about Roman Reigns and we're talking about SmackDown Live, we're talking about who was behind the attacks on Roman Reigns. And of course, we found out that it's, Buddy Murphy. Then he says that it was Rowan. Rowan says, keep my name out of your mouth. Now Daniel Bryan is on this quest to get Buddy Murphy to say that he lied and it wasn't Rowan, to clear their names of this whole mess. And it is a mess. And it only gets messier and messier when Daniel Bryan forces Buddy Murphy to say that he lied. Now, he forced him to say that he lied. Is it true? Did he do it? Or did he lie about it? We don't know. The games continue on, but at the end of the show, we saw Roman Reigns go up to Daniel Bryan and question him. And since Buddy Murphy confessed that he lied about it, though of course Daniel Bryan forced him to say it, Daniel Bryan asked for an apology. And Roman Reigns wasn't ready to give it. I think Roman Reigns knows that there's something going on, and I think Roman Reigns knows Daniel Bryan is onto something. And if this doesn't get any messier than it is, folks, Daniel Bryan then says, to close out the show and leave us with the biggest cliffhanger that we've seen on television this year thus far, Daniel Bryan says that it wasn't him who did it, but he knows who did it. And next Tuesday on SmackDown, he's going to let the whole world, including Roman Reigns, know who was behind those attempted murders on Roman Reigns. But again, look, Daniel Bryan or Daniel Day-Lewis, who knows at this point. Daniel Bryan is putting on some of the best performance of his career, and now that he's really locking into this heel character, which I love, get away from the planet, save the planet stuff, and get into this heel character. I love it. I still haven't gone over the fact that Daniel Bryan put on the best performance at WrestleMania, when he lost to Kofi Kingston. But go back and watch that match. Everything about what he did, as a heel, and he's continuing on here. Daniel Bryan is just a master at what he does. I love the guy, and everything that you saw on SmackDown is just, it's so perfect, and you could see right through it how much he loves what he does. All right, and of course, it was mentioned on Monday Night Raw that the King of the Ring tournament is coming back. And I'm really excited for this, guys, because the King of the Ring tournament is something that as a kid I really loved, and it was something that you got locked into, and you know that it was leading to something. And for every person that's won the King of the Ring in the past, it's helped and elevated their career to much bigger status. But I got to argue with the fact that maybe the last few King of the Rings haven't been up to par with what King of the Ring used to be. Now, it might be that the fact that the King of the Ring now isn't a pay-per-view like a Money in the Bank or an Extreme Rules. It's a tournament that's, on Raw or it's on SmackDown and might finish on an episode of Raw and SmackDown or a pay-per-view. And in this case, I think they're building up to the next pay-per-view to have the finals of the King of the Ring, which is cool. But again, I've been saying that the past few King of the Rings have not been what they used to be. I believe that the last official King of the Ring to me was the 2002 King of the Ring, because it was pay-per-view. The tournament was stacked with talent at that time, and it meant something because it meant that you'd get a title shot at SummerSlam, whoever is the Universal Champion, the undisputed champion at the time, which was The Rock, and the challenger Brock Lesnar. And look what it did for him. And I mean, look what it did for Edge, did for Kurt Angle, it did for Stone Cold Steve Austin, Bret Hart, Owen Hart. It did for everybody that won the King of the Ring. The past few King of the Rings, like Sheamus, and if you remember who the last King of the Ring is, folks, I'll give you a minute to think about it. It was Wade Barrett. And of course, you don't remember that because it was on a WWE Network special, like one night. It was just pretty much 4 people, 2 matches, and it was done. It just, that's not the way you present King of the Ring. I think that this time around, with the roster and the talent that they have, and just the timing of where we are in wrestling, you're putting on a tournament when there's other tournaments in professional wrestling getting much praise, like the G1 Climax right now going on, or it just finished, and now we have another tournament in WWE. You want to showcase that you can do it better, and with the talent, like I said, that they have. And speaking of the talent that they have for this King of the Ring, for Raw, you have Baron Corbin, Cesaro, Cedric Alexander, Drew McIntyre, Ricochet, Sami Zayn, and Samoa Joe, and The Miz. Over on SmackDown, you have Ali, Andrade, Apollo, Buddy Murphy, Chad Gable, Elias, Kevin Owens, and Shelton Benjamin. I mean, that right there is just, that's all you need. I mean, that right there is just a house show, and I'm sold on it. So I really look forward to the King of the Ring. If you want to know who I'm picking through all this, it's really tough. It really is, because, like I said, this could do wonders for so many of these guys. And if they get away from the King of the Ring being where you just win it and you just wear a crown for a few weeks and it doesn't mean anything. No, this needs to mean something. And I think this time around, again, with the talent that they have now, it could mean something. You're not going to throw away this. But, sometimes it does scare me that this whole tournament might just be to get Kevin Owens over, but in the end, it's just all about Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon, something like that, or it gets Baron Corbin over. That's not really what I would want this King of the Ring tournament. It's to give everybody a new platform within the big scale platform that is WWE, but more eyes coming into it. And this is a throwback, so all these nostalgic fans that right now, with nostalgia being such a craze, you see a King of the Ring coming back, you're going to tune into Monday Night Raw. Again, if I pick anybody from this to realistically win this tournament, I'm going to go with Andrade. I just think Andrade is a heel, a great heel, and I think he would need something like this. And the other choices, of course, Buddy Murphy going into this. I think Buddy Murphy might be looked at a little bit as a babyface. So, it could be Chad Gable. This could be Chad Gable's moment to break out. All right, guys, and what to watch for. Go back and watch this week's episode of MLW Fusion. It featured Savio Vega making his MLW debut, going up against MLW National Champion Alexander Hammerstone. And this was a great match. It's nice to see Savio Vega back there. But Alexander Hammerstone, if you have not seen this guy, I mean, this guy looks like $1,000,000. He looks like a rock star in the ring. Right now he's rocking with the Dynasty, MJF, and Richard Holiday. And, it's cool for him. It's good for the exposure. But, man, if this guy can get away from the Dynasty, this guy has got, future MLW World Champion written all over him. All right, guys, and before we get out of here, I'm going to give you guys my performers and floppers of the week. With a week like WWE that they delivered 4 straight nights of great wrestling action in Toronto, I'm going to give WWE my MVPs for the week. Just everybody on the crew that worked hard this week and put on great matches. But I got to give you my floppers of the week. So if there's one thing that I did not like from this week, this is where they make it onto my floppers list. And I'm going to go with the Street Profits on Raw. I explained last week, I just think them narrating the show, it doesn't really do it for me. I'd like to see them wrestle. I don't have a problem with that. And also Viking Raiders. I mean, another squash match against 2 guys that don't matter. It ain't doing it for me. It's not doing it for them. So that's my floppers of the week. And that's it for this episode. I thank you so much for your time. I thank you so much for downloading. This was episode 17. Be sure to like and subscribe over on YouTube. Find us at Speaking Wrestling. Also, we are on Twitter at Speaking Wrestle. And you can find us over on Instagram at Speaking Wrestling. I am Elvis Arroyo. I thank you so much once again. And we'll do it again next week. Bye-bye.